Hello, everybody, and welcome on the French Speaking Crew, TFWC. I realize that it sounds like an old radio show. Do you remember? Welcome on TFWC Radio. Tonight we are with Jerome, Ned, Druzer, and Ross, who talking about wow and listen, some good shit. So we are here tonight for the second episode of the Zodiac Killer mysteries to talking about um, uh, Blue Rock Springs Spark attack and Lake Berryessa attack. So we are here today, like last week, with Mr. Druzer, Ross, and Ned. So if you want to have uh, their YouTube channel, they are in the description below. So like this, you have just to put and subscribe. Um, what are you doing, guys?
Good.
Doing just fine. All is well.
Great. Can't complain.
Excellent. So we will wait to see if Mr. Drew Beeson will join us, but if it's not the case, we will do the job. So today we will start to talking about the Blue Rock Spring attack occurred on July 4th, 1969. Not far away from the first attack on Blue Rock Spring, and the victim of this day was Darlene Elizabeth Ferrin, and Michael Renaud Magoo. But Michael survived on the attack. So here we go. Who want to start?
Majot.
Majo? Go ahead, Druzer.
That's just a minor correction if we're going to say his name a bunch of times. Michael Majot.
Majo.
Yeah. Do we have a definite on that, Druzer? I totally trust you, but man, I've heard 3 or 4 pronunciations of the name, and it
Yeah, Maju, Mago,
Magoo,
Magoo,
Mayhew.
Yeah.
Mayu. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Majot.
I hear
multiple-
Majot used the most frequently.
Yeah, I hear Belly, I have
Yeah.
there's a couple of names that could maybe go.
Now, Melvin Belli sounds so much better, but did he actually pronounce it Belly? Like, that's what people say, that's the closest way, the way he said it, but I just think Melvin Belli has such a better ring to it.
You hear it on the news and you sort of go with it.
With I hear Belli the most for sure on that
Yeah,
one.
me too.
But yeah, I mean, I guess maybe a little bit of like background of the Blue Rock Springs attack, because Ned brought this up on a recent episode of BBOR I was just watching. I bring this up a lot. It's, we'll use Drew Beeson's term, gray smithing. The argument in the parking lot, supposedly at Darlene's job. This is directly out of Graysmith. Yeah, it doesn't seem very realistic to myself either, Ned, because the whole Graysmith narrative is like this guy was going to her restaurant and hassling her all the time. And we know that there was, supposedly a few guys doing that, and they were kind of interviewed and cleared. But the whole Graysmith narrative that it doesn't really track that, some guy was seen there all the time harassing her every night at work, then gets in a loud argument with her right before the events of Blue Rock Springs, coupled with what Majot says in the Blu-ray bonus features, which is that the Zodiac followed them around all night long and he was named Richard. There's just, again, it's another situation with so many versions of the story, like we were saying about Kathleen Johns. I know you don't really buy the argument story. I'm just like wondering what your take on it is, Druzer. Do you just have that as pure Graysmith? Or
Well, Graysmith never interviewed Majot.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And Majot didn't reiterate that narrative until after the book came out.
Mm-hmm.
And the argument in the parking lot was hours earlier, not right before. and there's no confirmation that it was Darlene. In fact, we have her movements for most of the day, and I don't think it jives.
So it could just be a totally different argument between two other people that, literally had nothing to do with Darlene, if it occurs.
I think so.
Most likely, yeah.
Yeah. See, that's kind of where I was going on it. But yeah, it never sat right to be like, if this dude was following them around for weeks and months, like, there should be some witness that either saw the guy's face, especially in a packed restaurant.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That was my whole thing with that. And then I get the idea that Graysmith didn't interview Majot because he was probably afraid of what he would say of, hey, who did you see with the flashlight in your face? And he's like, he can't really positively ID it was Arthur Lee Allen either way, right? So
the public didn't know where Majot was.
Yeah, he was missing for some time.
Yeah.
Firewalks, they figured it was teens. I wonder if this attracted Z to near them. Yeah, I've heard the fireworks thing. That's
I think he may have chosen the night because there was partially because fireworks would be going out. Also because there would be people returning to these lover lanes after.
Yep. That's what I think it was.
Long.
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
Is the focus of this discussion whether Darlene had a stalker or whether Zodiac could have followed them?
Yeah, I mean, anything related to Blue Rock Springs. I mean, what are your takes on either one of those?
For the longest time, it's hard not to be intrigued by Darlene Ferrin. She was an interesting character. So it's certainly worth getting into. There's maybe a few suggestions that possibly she knew the attacker, or the attacker knew her. There's some pretty good evidence to suggest that they were not followed, which we can get into.
Yep.
I feel like I'm jumping ahead, though. Where do you guys want to go?
I think it's all fair.
Well, I wouldn't mind coming back to this thing, that Ross is asking from the beginning about the argument that's taking place. I think Druzer said it the best, that argument was well earlier in the day, and I don't think there's any evidence that it was Darlene Ferrin, which brings up the whole point about Mike Majot. Like, what is his reason to lie in the documentary when he's saying, that they were followed to Blue Rock Springs and that Darlene knew who the man in the car was. She said his name was Richard. I didn't encounter any of that stuff, reading through reports that the Zodiac Killer's name is Richard. So what is his reason to say these things that are most likely untrue? I mean, he was there and I wasn't. I've always held on to that. Maybe that there's a chance that actually happened. But what's his motive?
Confusion, trauma, the effects of decades of drug abuse, I think. I don't know whether he actually read Graysmith's book or someone told him about it, but there are countless things in the 2007 interview that do not match what he told them in July or August of '69. Crucial things like the killer saying his name. I think he would have revealed that right away.
Or walking up and saying D, because supposedly everybody called Darlene D. I mean, I agree with Druzer's answer. I don't necessarily know that it's blatant lying, Ned. Maybe he believes that. I think what it was filling in the gaps. I think the years of drug abuse, the years of alcoholism, the trauma, and everything that Druzer mentioned. Most likely, he probably went online to Tom's site, and in my guess, he's probably insinuating Gaikowski. I don't know what other prominent Richard would be there around the time that they shot those interviews for the DVD.
I think
Richard Hoffman.
Yeah, but was he as out? Plus, isn't he the first guy on the scene on a motorcycle? So you don't think Majot would differentiate that?
That's what Tom Boyd was just posting because I mean, you guys know that the Richard Hoffman theory is getting a lot of attention because his grandson Jay Foy was making those TikTok videos, and Tom Boyd openly just called him out and just said that it's just so implausible that this cop on a motorcycle is going to come up behind Darlene when, very clear it's reported that it was a car, not a motorcycle. Right. That would mean that there's some type of either miscommunication, some type of false statement. But the thing that I brought up on BBO War was that Richard Hoffman interviews Mike Mageau in the hospital, right? And it's like, you're not even going to recognize any details at all. I know he didn't see the shooter's face well enough to make a composite, but you're not going to recognize something. Hey, this is the man that shot me. And I just think that this guy, Jay Foy, is barking up the wrong tree. I think that he was just looking into someone who had a connection to the Zodiac case, and it'll probably last for about another week, 7 days, and people will get bored and move on.
Yeah. I have with that. Go ahead.
I have a few corrections. It's not often that I get to correct Tom, but Hoffman was on a police unit that night. The only suggestion that he was on a motorcycle, I think, comes from the Fincher film. For some reason, they wanted to put the first responder on a motorcycle. But Hoffman was a plainclothes detective, and he was in a unit that night. But he's not the Zodiac Killer. He was at the hospital when the phone call came from the killer at.
But this guy Jay has absolutely no respect.
No. I think it's disrespectful to not read the reports before you start spouting opinions like that. Maybe you did read the reports, but not quickly enough. Because
I know some of them. Like, he read the Hoffman report because he showed that on the screen in like his first video. That's the one that has the word "until" with 2 L's. Therefore, he's the Zodiac.
Yeah.
I mean, Hoffman was in the ambulance.
Yeah. Right.
And the call.
Druzer, like, for years, I've just accepted that Richard Hoffman was on a motorcycle. You're saying that that's really that's untrue?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at do you call a motorcycle a unit? I don't think so.
I don't. I mean, I wouldn't personally.
And I'm not. I think Nancy Slover said that the Vallejo department didn't even have motorcycles. Certainly not an undercover one.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, like, that's also something like, I don't think my hometown had undercover motorcycle cops, so.
Yeah, they usually drive marked motorcycles. I don't know if I've ever known of a plainclothes, The
only reason why it may potentially have any consequence at all is that there's a theory that that Hoffman, who had just been to Blue Rock Springs shortly before the attack, in fact, in the reports, he sort of puts himself there precisely as the attack is occurring, which obviously is is a slight error in some way. But I think it's possible that Hoffman may have actually been the first car that pulled in there, if you can rationalize that Hoffman decided not to say anything to the cars that were there and later claim that the lot was empty. But I assume that the first car was Zodiac. That makes the most sense to me, considering the behavior that he came and left in the same direction that the confirmed killer's car came from. But yeah, I think that was a detail from the Fincher film that sort of leaked into everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Sorry, Druzer, I didn't mean to jump in over you, but I just really want to ask all 3 of you guys, what's the deal with Robert Graysmith saying that Richard Hoffman and Darlene Ferrin knew each other? Because do you think that happened? Do you think that that Hoffman actually knew Darlene? Do you think that somebody is making up the story for a reason? Is this just Graysmith trying to sell his book and making the story wild and salacious? Like, what do you guys think?
I think his source was probably Pam, who may be confused or had an agenda. I'm not sure which.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going like painting party narrative, I mean, I'm kind of with Drew Beeson on that. I've really never seen any evidence that it actually happened. I mean, there's not one person who's ever come forward that's
No.
if we believe the painting party, we believe that Arthur Lee Allen was there, Richard Hoffman was there, Richard Gaikowski was there. Take every single Zodiac suspect and put them all at the painting party. It just seems quite unrealistic.
Dean Farron said he was the one who painted the place, which is kind of a strike against it occurring. But Karen, the babysitter, gave her interview in the late 70s, 77, I think. And she said it occurred. It may be that painting itself did not occur there. But I think the party could have occurred without anyone who was reported to have been there actually being there.
Yeah, that's a good possibility as well.
It's hard to imagine how it could have any relationship to the attack, though. It was
right.
What, 2.5 months previously?
Right. And Gray Smith mentions it a lot. He keeps coming back to it. Well, it's all the painting party. Okay.
But there's a reason for that, right? That's because of what you guys were saying before about how Graysmith is establishing this narrative that there's the stalker who's going repetitively after Darlene. She's the key. She's the focus. She's the person that, he's trailing down, and he's harassing her at the restaurant. And then all of a sudden, he just, snaps, murders her. And this is when he has to switch. And he's not only a murderer anymore, he's going to become the Zodiac. That's when he starts writing the letters. It's a big story. I just think it's all, I think it's mostly fiction.
Yeah, I think the only legitimate stalker in the reports, I always get his name wrong.
George Waters, right?
George Waters.
Yeah.
He apparently had made some awful threats to Darlene. But I mean, they were satisfied to clear him of the crime.
Yep.
Yes.
Without knowing more, I wouldn't cast doubt on that judgment.
I mean, I don't think Darlene's first husband, Crabtree, did it, but he would have much more motive than a Richard Hoffman or any one of these random people from the restaurant or the painting party. You know what I mean? They actually have a personal rift there. I don't think he did it at all. Don't get me wrong, but as far as establishing motive, like Ned said, and then Richard Hoffman, didn't we say is he one of the people that interviewed Majot? So do we I mean, I don't know how bad his memory deteriorated from the substance abuse, but do we really think after all that on the Blu-ray he's going to mention a cop that was on the scenes as it doesn't really seem to make any sense. You know what I mean?
Of course not. The most odd person in Graysmith's painting party list was Jay Eisen. He was actually Jim's lawyer, or at least a friend who happened to be a lawyer in San Francisco. So there's a part of me that thinks that some of these names are coming from the address book.
I can see that,
but I'm not sure that they are all in the address book. I don't.
What do you say?
Well, I think it was Jim's address book, and then Darlene kept the address book after Jim left, and so in a sense it was both of theirs. I think some of the names have no connection to Darlene, only to Jim, and then vice versa.
And you mean Jim Crabtree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not to answer to your question, in my opinion, as I understand, Darlene was well known by almost everybody because she was working in a place who was running really well, and that's a possibility. Then cops came to eat at this restaurant, so I don't see any problem with some cops knowing Darlene Ferrin from a job first. But for the painting party, I think Graysmith had made this strange I don't know how to call that, but the strange thing with Cherry Joe Bates and the watch we were recovered, and with some drop of paint, and because it was a narrative, so we need to find a narrative for his story. So if he's looking for a place, you have Darlene, you have the Zodiac, and you have other people. I think he took his inspiration in the Cherry Joe Bates killing. In the Timex watch, we was recovered with some trace of paint on it, but it's just my opinion. But as a writer, then I'm not. Ned is a writer. Drew is a writer, but I'm not. But if I had to write a fiction or something that I'm not sure, but I try to construct around a crime, I will take some stuff from other case who could fit with my narrative if I was Robert Graysmith. But it's just my opinion.
Well, Graysmith had, obviously, he spoke with officers. He at least glanced at the reports, but I'm sure that he wasn't able to get copies of the reports and take them home and analyze them the way we have. Whether it went down the way it's presented in the film, where he's able to go into the room with 1,000 files and no pencil, I'm not sure. But he certainly fleshed out the book with details that he either couldn't possibly know or that are just false. And in 1985 or 6, I think the true crime genre wasn't as sort of defined as it is today. And I don't think he was doing it all to frame Arthur Lee Allen. But obviously that is the bent with a lot of his misrepresentations. You know, he'll add the word in, hulking man, this giant man,
stocky
at all times. But yeah, I don't. I mean, it wasn't a foggy night in October when Paul Stein was shot. You know, he adds that in for color.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean,
okay,
so to go off,
go ahead,
to go off what you were saying, Jerome. So Graysmith has it as quite a bit more as that they know her from work. He's saying that they know her very well, makes it quite a bit more salacious that she dated them all. I mean, if we break down, I'm not sure where you were going with it, Ned, but if we break down these multiple Darlene Ferrin backstories, you have her buying the house and the expensive clothes with the drug money because she can't apparently afford it from her day job. Then you have the witchcraft coven thing going back to the Virgin Islands where she supposedly witnessed a murder, and this dude that's stalking her, as you know, she's already seen him commit some sort of ritualistic, satanic killing. Pam is the sister, right, Druzer? But the babysitter is the one was saying like the guy was sitting outside smoking cigarettes, dropping off gifts on the door. Now Horan says that was the neighbor sitting in his car smoking cigarettes. But again, there's so many of these backstories that it's just like difficult not to get lost in them,
Yeah.
Okay, though, I was actually going to bring up Thomas Henry Horan even before Ross did, because I don't know exactly how you guys feel, but I think the biggest thing that he convinced me of is when he just says Graysmith should be way down here at the bottom of the barrel because he was a liar. And he's at the bottom because he knew better. What it seems like he did was he had access to files. But what he was expecting was that the general public would not have the files. He didn't know there was going to be ZodiacKiller.com when he started writing the book, and that these things would be put out there. So he thought that he could say whatever he wanted in the book. No one was going to go through it, or at least not in the public. Maybe, someone like in law enforcement would have access to the files, but at that point, what does he care? So I guess I do view him as somewhat of a malicious individual, self-serving, maybe doing it for profit. But in all honesty, I think he started writing the Zodiac book and he just wanted to finish it. I mean, I think a lot of people would do that, and that's more of a mundane motive. That he's been working on this thing for over a decade, and he wanted his life's work to come to fruition. What do you guys think?
I agree.
I think he has no excuse for Unmasked. Like in 1986, I'm sure he did his best, but by the time he came out with Unmasked, he was getting information from Tom, not crediting him, and he had all kinds of access, and it was even more erroneous than the first book.
He doubled down on it,
So,
but that's important.
What is?
No, like that's important because this is just what Graysmith started doing. He used his same method of graysmithing. We have to give credit to Drew Beeson, of course, every time we say that word, because it's like all of his books are like that. Like in his Jack the Ripper book, he's just incorporating blatantly false things. Saying Martha Havern was stabbed 37 times. With someone's right hand, and then the 38th time came from someone's left hand, and it's just like making stuff up pretty much. And it's I think
he was
he
a
realized,
fiction writer. Yeah.
Yes, he realized this is how you can sell books, this is how you can keep the publishing deals coming in, and I just think that he took it and he ran with it. So some of that, at a certain point, is just doing it for profit and for and to get his name on more books.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Yep.
He's looking at himself first and don't really care about the real story. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and what final? Go ahead, Ross.
Go ahead. No, finish, Ed. It's all good.
Well, I had the opportunity to interview Chris Todd once, and he's a true crime writer, and what he said was, some people just want to be low-level celebrities. That's their goal. They want their name on a book, they want to be interviewed, and they want to sign some signatures if they get to be brought to CrimeCon or something like that, and that's it. That's all they want.
That's true.
So that's why people don't hesitate to tell these wild theories. But yes, Ross, please continue.
I mean, just kind of piggyback off what you guys were saying. So and I think Druzer was getting at this too, is it, it starts out as true crime and maybe what we're all referring it to as like nonfiction kind of history, American crime history. But, as you fill in the gaps, as Druzer was saying, the police reports only tell you so much. It's an unsolved cold case, so they don't give you a suspect. You might know that Inspector David Toski was looking at Alan. You might know that, whoever else was looking at Alan, but there's a lot of gray area, graysmithing in between that you got to fill in. So it kind of starts out with this kind of a true crime story, a major unsolved American cold case, the Zodiac case. But you kind of, as Ned says on BBO all the time, you kind of turn into a choose your own adventure story halfway through. Like, well, I also got to sell this to the publisher and then they got to sell it to the public. So in order to get that, I have to have like a sexy suspect, you know what I mean? So you get a super hard, double down on Alan, which carries over to the movie, in 2007. But, there's a little bit more. Like, I guess, Horn is always saying that the original manuscript was William Joseph Grant, right? Which is Lafferty's suspect. So curiously enough, Graysmith still has that Grant chapter in the book. So even though about 2/3 of the way through, he hard pans to Alan, he still has this random other suspect in the middle of the book. Yeah, maybe that guy could be the Zodiac, although he offers nothing but that one chapter of the dude driving back and forth on the highway, staring at the cop in the car, which I guess was Lafferty or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's all kind of convoluted and all kind of incongruent, much like what me and Ned were saying about the Ultimate Evil last time. Like the Ultimate Evil clearly starts with the David Berkowitz Son of Sam crime spree in New York. But what does he do, Ned? He brings all the other cults from California and the Arliss Perry murder, and it's all this overarching spiderweb conspiracy, not unlike what Graysmith does with weaving his web of this kind of more local conspiracy. and he kind of just rehashes all of these kind of like rumors, essentially, right? He spins the rumor mill like, oh, she was dating all the cops on the force, and and even if that is true, if Zodiac is still a random serial killer who killed a random person, that really doesn't help us much. And by the way, she's like a witchcraft initiate, and so between the satanic coven and then the drug dealing thing, and then also, oh, by the way, she's dating all of those cops in Vallejo while having a husband. And by the way, none of those guys care that she's involved in narcotics. You know what I mean? Like you have to add like a lot of steps on to make this story work. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing.
Have you guys read the 1991 interview with Buzz Gordon that's on Tom's site?
No, I have not.
Because that's the earliest that I've seen a lot of this information come from. Darlene dated Buzz while she was married to Dean. For how long, I'm not sure. He makes it seem like she was infatuated with him. I'm not sure that's true.
Right.
He also mentions her drug use and her relationship with the occult. He says that she didn't date any other cops. If she did, he would have been told about it. I'm not sure I believe that either.
Right.
No.
And just for interest's sake, Gordon and Richard Hoffman were not friends. I don't know if they came to blows, but they certainly had a fight in mid-July '69 during the police strike. I guess Gordon was the one organizing the picket line, and he threw Gordon off the picket line for some reason. I don't really know, but Hoffman's last words were, "Oh, I'll get you for this."
Interesting.
Know.
That's
wow.
I heard about the relationship between them two, but I'm not sure that I read that actual interview. But if I had, I've forgotten. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of interesting stuff from Blue Rock Springs to the timeline to the fact that Arthur Lee Allen lives so close by. Now, is she still at the IHOP? Because I thought at this point either her or Dean was working at another restaurant, right?
Yeah.
She was working at Terry's. Dean was working at Caesar's.
No. Yeah.
Okay. And Terry's was the old IHOP, or is that a completely different place?
It's a different place. It's also a waffle house, I think.
Another 24-hour pancake house, maybe. So yeah, I don't know. That's it. I like the whole Darlene Ferrin thing. Her being a server. I gotta say, whether it's related or not, like Drew Beeson's inference that of Donald Lee Cheney bringing up the ABC murders. I don't if that's totally random or Donald Lee Cheney is actually able to pull something out that random that fits so well out of his ass. I don't know, because it's Donald Lee Cheney, so I don't know what's real with that guy. But I do find it a very interesting angle, Just
it's hard to call it random because it's so popular.
Right.
It is interesting.
But it's his random statement, though. He says, Arthur Lee Allen told me the book. He didn't name it, but I knew what it was from the description. It's like, even that is like, I mean, how often does like a friend of yours bring up a book and, doesn't name the title, but the both of you have read it. And you just, I mean, I guess it was that popular back then. Druzer's point stands, but like, again, it's another Cheneyism, It's just the way he brings it up. I'm like, what? The way he describes it is confusing.
He's certainly a weird liar.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. I mean, he could be a weird liar, and I know, like Drew has his theory about Don Cheney. Like he's just saying that Don Cheney was confessing, kind of hiding in plain sight and dropping these things. As you said, like he knows what book it is, even though Lee Allen didn't tell him. Well, it's because he is the one who came up with the story. It's like it's his idea. He's just trying to make it look like it's not his. Now,
presenting it through Allen,
Yeah, he's trying to present it through Allen like the perfect patsy and all that. And I'm just curious to see where that investigation goes. Although, I mean, they did look into John Cheney, right? They took DNA, fingerprints, handwriting, and nothing came of it, though. That is some strong counter evidence, but go either. Not the DNA, but the other stuff.
No, not the DNA.
It's hard to discuss Cheney as a suspect without knowing any of his movements. for the entirety of the crime spree. And if Drew can't find anything like that, I'm not sure it's going to be found.
I mean, what he came up with, real quick, Jerome, is he says that Cheney is very close friends with a Vallejo couple that lived, I guess, down the street or nearby to Allen or something like that. So he could have been there visiting all the time. I don't know how concrete it is, or you know what I mean, but that was the latest I heard from him, that he does have like those friendship connections in Vallejo. I don't know how much that gets us, but on handwriting though, I mean, I do think Cheney is one of the closer matches. Again, me not being an expert, what do you guys think? Or at least
absolutely.
Yeah, his handwriting's decent. There's a few inconsistencies, but there's some consistencies as well.
Yep.
I sort of go the other way on a lot of these issues, but I certainly don't look at the handwriting and say no way.
For sure. And then I know, Jerome, to bring in your theory, you recently posted Sandy Panzarella's handwriting on a document that was interesting. For those who don't know, Jerome has Sandy with a bit more involvement than most of us, but I like Jerome's theory a lot. Not crapping on it in any way. At some point, we should get into that as well, Jerome. But going off the chat real quick, Adam said the other tenuous link is a possible Richard is RH is a desktop. RH has signed the signature of the desktop poem. I saw what's his name say that on TikTok. I actually don't know that guy's name, unfortunately. But
J4.
Going back to Riverside. Okay, take the poem out of the equation. Do any of us think that Riverside is 100% the Zodiac? Any of the four of us?
No.
Or even leaning more than 50%?
Yeah.
Less than 50%.
Okay.
I may even be at 52% now.
Okay.
Ross.
I was trying to see how high we were going to get you. I don't know if it was 60 or and I'm right around 50. So I'm not.
I'm embarrassed because there's some pretty darn good evidence that the writer of the confession was not the killer, and therefore no real Zodiac connection.
Yep.
But I'm still wrestling because it's, I don't know. We probably went over this last time.
Yeah.
If I start going over stuff that we did in our 3-hour discussion last week, just let me know because it all blurs.
No, it all blurs. That's Zodiac, right? That's what we keep saying. But also, okay, can we throw out the desk poem? Let's say Riverside, hypothetically, Riverside's hypothetically Zodiac. Does that still mean the poem has anything to do with Sherry's death, or?
Yeah, probably.
Do you think it's close enough handwriting, Druzer, that?
I do. It's I mean, it's if. But
yeah, for sure.
If we found out that Zodiac was the murderer in Riverside, then the handwriting discovered days, weeks after the confession, and it looks, just like Zodiac's handwriting, it's hard to write that off. I think it's either all related or none of it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, my whole thing is I could have the whole Sherry thing going down, and I maybe just like, kind of like Ned has kind of insinuated on his show that could just be a random student that wrote that. Again, doesn't say Sherry by name, really doesn't even describe the way Sherry died, not even what she's wearing. She's not wearing a red dress, so I don't know if that's a totally other crime reference there. So when the TikTok guy says, oh, by the way, the Riverside poem signed R.H. Richard Hoffman, I'm kind of like lost on that, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, first of all, isn't Hoffman from the North Bay? We then have to put him down at RCC at Riverside. And again, we have no idea what that RH means. You know what I mean? It could be Riverside High School for all we know.
Well, here's a question. Does it, before the internet age, do you ever see someone sign their initials in lowercase?
Good question.
Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
I guess
right-handed
back then, yeah.
BTK, but it was not his initial. It was a sign.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a signature, but that's a signature as much as the not Z at the bottom of the letters is a Z.
Yeah, the squiggly stylized Z. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hard to
Yeah,
say.
in the same time, if it's the Zodiac, that's mean then he was at this library, so he must have the same age.
Well, it
Yeah.
wasn't in the library, Jerome. It was in the music room, and then it got moved into storage. So
Ah,
we'd have to
okay.
assume someone randomly went in that room, or it was some kid from the music class. If you think it was,
But
a
we
student.
don't know when the poem desk was written.
Exactly.
That's right.
It could
Yeah,
be.
it was
So it could be
discovered
from
in December.
10 years early, from a poem,
Yep.
taking in a book. So
But that would make the timing of its discovery a coincidence, which is a little hard to
It
accept.
could be.
Like, the
Yeah.
very
Oh, you
end
think so?
of November, the confession letter was sent, and then all we know is sometime in December, the poem was found.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, though, but like, I would like to
Go,
respond
go.
to that, Druzer, because
Yeah.
I think that I just have to give credit to Sword and Korsgaard, who's the one who really made this observation, which I mostly agree with, and that is that the desktop poem is not only talking about a different person, as Ross already said, Sherry Jo Bates wasn't wearing a red dress. Secondly, it's not even talking about murder. It's talking about self-mutilation, because it's saying,
yeah,
someone will find her this time, wait till next time, meaning the girl in the poem doesn't die by the end of the poem. And I know it's could be insinuating it, but it's well, Sherry was murdered and there was no next time, right? And I agree the handwriting is very similar, but I just don't think there's enough for me to say that that's even talking about killing anybody, period. What do you guys think?
I agree, and for years I thought the best theory was that it was a disturbed young lady contemplating harm.
Yes. Well, that's, I think it's very accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's happening in the poem. The blood spilling over on the dress. Oh, well, it was red anyway. That's what it's talking about, right?
I think so, and it certainly doesn't align with murder, and not with Sherry Jo in particular. None of the earlier crimes in Riverside or the post crimes in Riverside. So yeah, I totally concede your point. But the timing's interesting. The handwriting match is interesting. The cryptic nature of it.
Yeah. But I have another thing to respond to, because you guys were asking about how do you place Richard Hoffman in Southern California at Riverside. And maybe you heard on the Black Box Online radio, I was talking about this guy named Dennis K. That's not his full last name. And he said that Richard Hoffman used to date Sherry Jo Bates, and he supports the policeman thrill kill club theory that multiple police officers conspired to create the Zodiac persona. But he did something very shady once. He sent me that famous photo of Sherry Jo Bates and Dennis Highland, and he said that that was Richard Hoffman in the photo. And I was like, no, it's not. And he's like, yes, it is. I have a living witness who can confirm it. And I'm like, no, it's not. You guys must have seen that photo, right, of Sherry and Dennis. Yep. So I just wanted to point out that there are rumors that Richard Hoffman and Sherry Jo Bates were dating, and this is from years ago, and I don't think they're very strong.
Where's Richard Hoffman from? Is he from Southern California or Northern California? If he's from 7, 8 hours away, I don't know.
From Nebraska, according to the TikToker, he was from Nebraska, but
yes, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, well, so the other thing I was going to say is the 1965 Taft crime at RCC, where the kid Taft tries to stab the girl and she gets away. Again, I have no idea if she's wearing a red dress, but that's a RCC crime, a stabbing crime where the victim actually got away. So, I mean, that was kind of always although I see both sides, my interpretation of the poem. So again, I just don't see how we go from RH is Richard Hoffman because it's written on the poem, so therefore he's the Zodiac. I think that's a lot of jumps, but it's fine. Did you guys want to do some more Blue Rock Springs, or do we want to handle this Eureka card in the chat?
I wouldn't mind going to the chat.
Yeah, okay.
Pull up Robert Smith further down. They also asked, I mean, we went over the Bates had to die last time, I believe.
Yeah, we know who had writing this Bates had to die later.
And then going off poetry, you have Ross Sullivan writing poetry. You have Bud Kelly writing poetry. Both wrote to the Press Enterprise. So if you list out your list of poets, you just have a bunch of them. It doesn't really, doesn't arrive to any direct conclusion.
Does anyone know how old William Suff was in '66?
Yeah, I was looking up an article about him.
Oh, he was wasn't he in his late teens?
I think so. I was going to say 18, but I don't.
That's what I thought, because you were actually the person who first told me about William Suff, Druzer, and you sent me like some articles, and I think he was 18. That's what stood out, and that would be just an absolutely wild, shocking turn in the story if it turns out that William Suff murdered Sherry Jo Bates, the Riverside Killer. I mean, of all people, but mathematically it works out, right? Like, in his locations and his whereabouts and some bizarre explanations for his gaps in serial killer activity.
And he had done things that the confession letter threatened.
Yeah, that's what I thought was the most compelling, actually, like murdering women and like depositing their lady parts for the town to see. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what William Suff did. That's how he operated as a serial killer, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And an 18-year-old would have a better chance of approaching her at the library than like, a 40 or 50 or 60-year-old guy. You know what I mean? At least.
So for the Eureka card, for me, not.
I always thought it was. I think me and Druzer went in depth on this in our show.
It's another element where we can't be certain. If I had to guess, I'd say it is not authentic. But I could be convinced of it if we learn some more about the later proposed activity of Zodiac. If we know something about what he was doing in the 80s, then sure.
Yeah.
Until then, it's too hard to say that that's authentic based on what we know.
Ned?
For the longest time, I thought there was a very high chance that it was authentic. Then I just began to think less and less likely. So much time has gone by. The publication of 2 Zodiac books, Zodiac by Graysmith and Time 17 by Gareth Penn, are both out. Someone could have learned a lot of these things, as well as perhaps maybe just saving old newspaper articles and such. The Secret Pal and the just like the whole tone of it, the handwriting, all of that stuff. So if I had to make a determination, I would say it's not authentic.
I hate to be flippant about some of the outlier letters because they could very well be legitimate. But after the 71s and 74, the proposed Zodiac letters do very, very little, other than the one in 1986. They do very little to encourage publication. There's, I guess, one of them threatened kids on Halloween.
Yeah.
But
87, right?
Yeah, in Zodiac's confirmed correspondences, he always gave them some information and some reason for urgency to publish his letters. And we don't see anything like that in the Eureka card.
Next question.
Did they pressure Sam from Eureka hard enough, or the card maker?
Is Sam from Eureka Chester Clark Klingel?
I don't know that they pressed him at all. They did a shallow investigation of him, and it was nowhere near satisfying from what I can tell. They acquired like 5 pieces of forensic evidence and only tested 2 of them, and the 2 items they tested couldn't be confirmed to be from Chester. And I think they found multiple samples, but I shouldn't talk too much with the documents ahead of me. But yeah, they definitely could have, should have done more.
I agree. as far as that next question in the chat, Jerome, we kind of talked about 87 and the Sacramento freeway murders last time.
Yeah.
Nick might want to go peep over there.
I would like to respond to that, though. Like, I just want to say something really quickly about the 87 letter. I mean, when I did the reading, of them on Black Box Online Radio, and I read off the letters in sequential order, it really seems like 69 to 71, it really does sound like it's written by the same person. Same tone of voice, same, like, word groupings, and as Druzer pointed out, the demands to publish this in the paper. Then we have the gap. 74, like, those also seem like they're all written by the same person. The Exorcist letter, the SLA letter, the Badlands card, and Count Marco. And they're all talking about things that are related to entertainment, as well as, no, this is the Zodiac speaking at the top. Then 86, 87, those seem like they're written by the same person. Now, this doesn't mean that it's from the Zodiac, but it seems like there are these clusters of some type of personality, and it seems like someone is at least writing multiple letters. I know that doesn't really answer the question, but I definitely think the 86 and 87 letters were written by the same person.
I'm not 100% that they were. There's two in 1987 sent days apart, and I'm pretty darn sure that they were sent by the same person, and the police are pretty certain that that person was her first name was Pam. But even if that's true, I'm not sure that that Pam would discover this very, very little reported 1986 Sacramento murder to write about.
Right.
So I'm not saying I'm sure that the 86 one was written by Zodiac. I think it probably wasn't. But I'm not sure it's the same person, even though all three of these letters, and we can also add the one in 1978 about Scotch tape, they all start with the same phraseology as the 1978 one, the April 24th, 1978 one, that is, that was publicly declared a hoax. So that's interesting, but it doesn't... I think it's probably more likely that a hoaxer grabbed the last news article about Zodiac and played with it.
You know what? I think, I'm not sure, I have no proof to say that, but I think it was the sister of Darlene Ferrin. Because when you see her in what is was
Sally
name?
Jesse Raphael or
no, in Geraldo Rivera.
Yeah.
Maniac in the Mask, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No. Was that it?
But me, I've seen
Satanic Panic.
Yeah, Satanic Panic and stuff like this. But me, I've seen that years after, because in Belgium there was no such documentary like this or show like this, because we are speaking French. So, and when I see her in this show, I have find that what she was saying was nonsense.
Maybe. I mean, if a woman says that someone's harassing her, we have to...
phone call. She's sure that the Zodiac continue to... Yeah, I agree. We need to pay attention to that. But I don't know, with the story of the... with all her story, I don't think she's reliable, but it's just my opinion.
Sending her the coffin seemed a little far-fetched to me.
Yeah, the coffin. Yeah.
It disappeared, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The coffin disappeared.
So perhaps we can say this: whoever was harassing Pam, whether it was us,
if she was harassing, because she had never proved anything.
Sorry, I'm having trouble saying this succinctly, but if someone was harassing Pam in Vallejo at this time, then they may have written a letter. If Pam was harassing herself, then maybe she wrote the letters.
Yeah.
But I think at the time she was living in San Francisco, not in Valero.
Ah, okay. I did not know that.
I think I do remember that she stated that she is living in San Francisco and the threat come from San Francisco.
It makes it even stranger that the letters were sent to the Vallejo Times, which Zodiac hadn't done since his absolutely first letters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely. Let me ask you this, Druzer. If regarding the unreleased, the 3 unreleased Zodiac letters that apparently have some Sacramento content or Sacramento DMV letter, we're told, would that sway you to the 86, 87 letters having the Sacramento freeway murders reference?
If they were sent in the 80s and they were authenticated, then yes. I think that they were probably sent in the 70s and probably from Sacramento. But I don't know. Like I was saying on your show, we just don't know enough to begin.
I mean, I'm just wondering. So to everybody, then, if they're authenticated, what does that tell us? Do we think Zodiac moved to Sacramento or relocated, or he maybe worked there? I guess it's some sort of.
Maybe he was there all the time.
That too.
I think that question leads to another question: is why were all of the Zodiac letters in 1969 and 70 sent from San Francisco? Is that because they lived there? Or is that because he went out of his way to send them from a place where they couldn't track anyone?
Or worked there and commuted back home to East Bay or North Bay or whatever, like you were saying, just spent the day.
He can have 2 houses. You can have 2 houses, one apartment to San Francisco, for example, and 1 house in Valero.
Well, then, in that case, it's Chocovale because, I mean, Arthur Lee Allen's not having multiple houses. He lives in his mom's basement. So, I mean, a couple crappy trailers, sure.
Yeah. Houses? He had 3 different trailer and
properties.
Property. Yeah, and he was living on.
What does Jerome and the panel think of more suspects now? Okay, so I wanted to get in this. I don't know if you brushed up on it, Jerome, but just getting back to Blue Rock Springs. So for one, isn't there the dude that lives in like the graveyard, like whatever it is, like landscaping house, and isn't he the guy that reports like hearing the firecrackers and the gunshots and stuff? That's one of the witnesses.
Son of the caretaker.
The son of the caretaker, that guy. So we got him there. Then we got Morph suspect down the street. Of course, we got the phone call. You know what I mean? I think we talked a little bit about the phone call, Druzer. So we have quite a bit to unpack here, and not just to mention that the extremely condensed timeline of the actual Blue Rock Springs parking lot itself. Because you have the kids setting off fireworks. You just have a lot of in and out, kind of like Lake Herman Road. You have a lot of people going by almost at the exact moment. So it just, once again, it seems like for the second time, Zodiac is able to come in at the perfect moment, commit the crime, and then get out before, any of the other witnesses come back. Obviously, before law enforcement arrives on the scene. Well, you have the witnesses coming and finding Mike, right? And then them going and reporting it in. Then you kind of have all these weird the weird pattern of phone calls saying, have you guys seen Horan's thing about he thinks that like Nancy's phone call wasn't Zodiac bragging? It was like the people reporting the crime. I don't know. Like that's a reach for me because it's like Nancy's a professional. I don't see her making that mistake. You know what I mean? Just being like, that's her job. And literally, I can't tell if you're reporting a crime or if you're the guy like, hey, I did it. And I also killed those kids last year. Like you can't differentiate between those two. It's like a massive Grand Canyon of a gap, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. But,
says the same thing.
Yeah, right. How many duplicates are there on this evening? Plus we have Zodiac calling Slate. So we know that's his thing.
And
well, yes, but go ahead.
Oh, sorry. When you have this call from the alleged Zodiac, he tell the police if you go 1 mile away by etc. Why, if he know the place, it doesn't say directly if you go on Blue Rock Springs Park, you will find 2 teenagers that I shot. why he need to say all these if you go 1 mile away, help me, I don't remember the exact if you goes 1 mile away on I don't remember.
I know what you're getting
If
at.
you go 1 mile east on the Columbus Parkway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Why he gave these specific details? He just have to say, go to Blue Rock Spring Park.
I'll take that one if you like. There's a couple
Because
avenues.
it looked like he showed the direction to the police. He don't say where the he say where the crime occurred, but not directly. Before he tried to give a kind of I don't know how explain that, a kind of some direction to the police to follow, but in his way, and not just hey, I shoot a couple on Blue Rock Spring Park, go to see, and you will find them.
Could have said the car.
Well, he just came from the road.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but why he's so specific about that? Because he looks like to know the place. If you go 1 mile away by etc., that means that you know the place.
Some people think in like a lot of sequences involving numbers and directions. Like some people are just more inclined to notice like the angles and like go 200 feet and around the corner.
Distance,
It could be a personality type thing, or is there something that you're leaning toward, Jerome? Because it sounds like there's something you wanted to say. Do you mean you think he's not familiar with Blue Rock Springs Park, or he's not?
Yeah, because it's strange. Because it looks like that he know the place, but he don't know the name of the place where he was 40 minutes early killing these two people. So
Jerome, then do you mean like if it were Macduff, you would be like Macduff would be like, if you go to Blue Rock Springs Park, you'll find the two kids there because he's a local.
Yeah.
It's his backyard, pretty much, right?
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
I
think it's a brilliant observation.
For me, it makes
Jerome,
sense.
That's brilliant. I wasn't quite sure how you were going to tie this together, but yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have a few.
Well, no, that means. Yeah, go for it.
Well, first of all, no transcript for the call that Nancy Slover received.
No.
Richard pointed out. I don't recall exactly, but if you put like a comma in what he in his directions, they actually make sense. But if you don't have a comma in there, then he's off. Mm-hmm. It's interesting because we have to infer that those are directions from the police station. Otherwise, I don't know how you give directions to the police. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, he was calling quite near the police station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But sort of philosophically, or his strategy, if he says, say he's local, if he says that he shot them at Blue Rock Springs, then he identifies himself as a local. If he's not a local, then he probably doesn't know the name of the park. It's interesting that Zodiac doesn't mind referring to Lake Herman, but omits Blue Rock Springs entirely. So I think people are going to answer this question with relation to who their suspect is. If you're a local, you say he doesn't say Blue Rock Springs because he doesn't want to give away that he was local. I don't think he's local, so I'll say he didn't know the name of the park.
Same. Yeah, that's. I'll.
But in the same time, if he knows Darlene Ferrin for a while and it's not a local, it's maybe a driver,
trucker or something.
A trucker, a trucker
for sure. That
makes sense.
That's exactly what I was coming to. How many of us have commuted out of town for work and you work in a completely different city than what you live in, you might know local restaurants because it's near your office or whatever. I mean, obviously Zodiac is, akin to maps and that kind of top down aerial, whatever you want to call it, geography. So he can definitely have a map of Benicia. He could definitely see where the police station is. As Druzer said, I think he was planning to make that phone call as close to the police station as possible while still giving himself some leg room to get away from the phone after the phone call. But there's quite a bit more context, right? Doesn't he get Darlene's clothing wrong? He says the girl was wearing slacks and she was actually wearing a slack dress. I mean, that could, again, in the moment, but he tries to give these details and it's kind of like it's inconsistent, as well as the directions.
There's a bit to unpack there with the pattern slacks, pattern pants, which is how he described them.
Mm-hmm.
According to the great Sandy Betts, a slack dress does refer to a jumpsuit, which is what she was wearing.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a sense, she was wearing pants. It says patterned slack dress in the police report, which is what Horan likes to grab onto.
Mm-hmm.
That's his best find, by the way. But continue, Druzer.
Well, I think it's debatable. Like the killer didn't see Darlene walking around.
Right.
That's right.
And from inside the car, it may have looked like a dress, but he didn't say. He didn't write that she was wearing a dress. He specified pants. So I don't know. For me, it's another one where you sort of go round and round interpreting how other people would interpret seeing someone from a disadvantageous point of view and reading a police report that is confusing.
Well, yes, but I said that's Horan's best find because it's like he said that it's most likely that person who wrote the letter was not the killer because they read the report and saw it's pattern slack dress. They probably didn't know what a slack dress was, so they interpreted it as dress slacks, which are pants. But I've never even seen a slack dress. As I understood, it's like what Druzer said, that it's a one-piece jumpsuit where there are pant legs on it. So if he did even just look in the car for a second, he probably would have thought she was wearing pants, pattern slacks. And also, I mean, she's sitting down, so he probably would be able to tell that she was wearing something with pant legs on it. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's debatable, Druzer. But I just... sometimes that's like I think that is a genuinely insightful observation from Thomas Horan, and it actually cause for suspicion that the Blue Rock Springs shooter may not have written the letter. But you guys know where I stand. I ultimately think that there was a single perpetrator and it wasn't a hoax.
Well, it's also worth noting, and we discussed this a bit last time, Zodiac's recall of the two crime scenes. I think it's pretty clear from the phone call that he had decided, at least by the night of the July 4th, that he was going to talk to the police and give them information that proved his involvement. So it's probably not a stretch to say that he took a very good look at what she was wearing, knowing that he was going to reiterate this in a letter.
Mm-hmm.
But
still,
I would like.
Go, Joe.
Oh, I would like to ask you all, what do you think about that? We are looking for maybe a psychopath. Somebody who kills like that could be a psychopath. And when the press asked him to have more details about his murderer, he's writing some details about his murderer. But do you remember the movie Seven with Brad Pitt? And you see at the end of the movie his last crime, the head of the girlfriend of Brad Pitt in a box. If I was, and I'm not, if I was a psychopath and the police try to cheating on me and the press too, and ask me to give them more detail about what I do, what my murder, I will not write some details. I will directly give them a box with a head inside or a hand to
Evidence.
prove that I am who I am. I will not writing like
Good
this.
times in
Oh yeah,
Vallejo.
yeah, yeah. I, I don't know what you think, but if the guy is a psychopath, why he doesn't do things like psychopath? And he's gentle with the press and oh, you want to have more details? Okay, I'm going to write you some new details. Then only me and you knows. If he's really psychopath crazy, he can kill somebody and post his finger
Yeah.
on a box to the police or to the press. What he done after with the Polstein shirt. So, what do you think about that? Because me, I'm wondering what kind of person it is to be so gentle with the press and the police and not be a psychopath at this moment.
Well, I would love to take this one.
Go for it.
Because I think that this would show that the more the Zodiac writes, I actually think he gets a little bit lighter in his tone, even though he's making threats, he's gonna kill school
Oh yeah,
children.
yeah, that's
But he
true.
starts incorporating the stuff about how he wants to get more news coverage. Please wear some nice Zodiac buttons, no nasty ones like Melvin's. And I think what Jerome's saying is like, why is he sounding so gentle if he's actually a psychopathic serial killer? Number one,
Yeah.
this could be narcissism. This is his narcissistic side, and he's really just trying to use this to fuel his particular image. I mean, I'm not 100% convinced the Zodiac was a psychopath or sociopath, most likely, but he could have just been an extreme narcissist. It's a really good question, though. Like, well, you brought up the movie Seven, and Kevin Spacey played the killer in Seven. I was talking about this on the Zodiac Killer News Report. In his interview with Lex Friedman, Kevin Spacey said there were two things that David Fincher told him to keep in mind when he's playing the killer. Number one is that you are going to win, and oh, what's number two? What's number two? It's just something very like that. Like, you are in control of all things.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are going to win, and you are in control of all things. I think that's Zodiac to a T. So the Zodiac is really just wanting power, and he's not a very gory person. He doesn't even like to touch the dead bodies. Well, except for Paul Stein, but so I think it's a combination of those things: narcissism and just being in control. And he's actually a very silly individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he was the type to collect body parts or anything like that. And of course, once he's left,
Graysmith thought so, right?
No,
Cutting off a hand and leaving fake fingerprints.
right.
Yeah. That's good. Gotta love some of
Yeah.
that Graysmith stuff.
But I don't say he was a kind of guy who was doing stuff like this, but I've never understood why he was so gentle with the press and the police, contrarily about his act, who was horrible, because killing somebody it's absolutely horrible, and why he was so gentle about that, and now sending them something really horrifying, because he was looking to terrify all the Bay Area. So why don't send a piece of a finger or something like this of one of his victim, if we think there is more than 5 victims? And
Yeah, I don't think he was that gory a killer. I think he'd killed before, but I don't think he was ever going to engage in that kind of thing. There's a good comment in the chat here from Adam. It says maybe he needs to find a fine balance through, because if he goes too dark, the press won't be able to print.
Yeah.
He wants the publicity.
Yeah,
I
100%.
think there's
That's
something
Yeah.
to that for sure.
I think Adam mostly took my entire statement and just could boil it down to write that he wants the publicity. And, Jerome is saying, like, well, why not, like, send in a bloody finger or something like that? The
Yeah.
ambition of the Zodiac is just to get his name in the paper, to spread his image. He wants the publicity. And I don't even think he cared too much about killing, to be honest. Like, I think it was all about his own attention.
Yeah, that's
but we actually have a lot of good things in the chat.
Yeah. I will.
Grinnell's in there too. Shout out to Richard Grinnell. That's actually what I was coming to later on, where Zodiac says he shot him in the knee or whatever, and Horan says he recounts that wrong. Richard was essentially getting to that Majot leaps into the back seat, which isn't reported. To answer Jerome's question, I just wanted to reiterate that last same point from Ned and Adam, which is that there's way more letters, way more writing, way more correspondence and ciphers than there is actual canonical murder crimes. Jack the Ripper, I don't know that Jack actually contacted the police, but he was writing to the media, and then he was always saying he had the kidney in the jar, and sending in those body parts is more of a Jack the Ripper thing. I think Zodiac wants to use as much of that and build on top of it to get his own media ego stroke, like Ned was saying, but not exactly so much of it that if he's cutting off body parts and sending them in, they're like, oh, this guy's being too much like Jack the Ripper. He's like, he doesn't want to be an exact copycat, but he wants to use the influence and then build upon it with, well, I sent the ciphers, well, I sent letter, I directly contacted the law enforcement. I called him directly and bragged to him, and I don't think he's a stark raving mad lunatic in the vein of the murderer from the movie M, or any like completely out of control psychopathic, like Jerome was saying. He obviously has control of his faculties, as Ned always says. Now, how deep and dark and just unhinged are his actual thoughts, we don't actually know, because only so much of it comes across, and then changing the letter of the correspondence satirically to the Belli letter, which is, oh, I need help, please help me, I need help, to the next one. It kind of, you could kind of see that he's just screwing around and stringing along the narrative. Well, I'm still getting printed in the Chronicle, I'm still getting printed where I need to get print. Obviously the media reaction was the overall goal, you know what I mean?
You certainly don't see any remorse in Zodiac. I think his actions, not only killing probably strangers and trying to threaten the community with violence and a bomb and stuff like that.
Yeah, domestic terrorism, threatening the school buses and whatnot. I don't know if you guys want to go through the chat, or if we want to
I wanted to respond to this Jack Nipper one.
Yeah, you guys did. I got to make a quick call. I'll be right back, boys. You guys can take it.
Sure. I'll read it off. Jack Nipper writes, guys, could you explain what makes Shel Cavalli such a respected suspect other than his Presidio location? I read Mike Brodelli's book and was left unconvinced. Please summarize what makes him a strong suspect. Now, I don't know how Jerome and Druzer are going to respond to this, but I think it's because people have respect for Mike Brodelli. I think it's because they recognize he has spent decades following this material. They think that he's more honest than some of the other people out there. And I really think they're just giving him a fair shake and everything. And there are a lot of strikes against Shel Cavalli, but I mean, I know that's probably not the answer that people want and not what Jack was asking about, but I'll turn it over to Druzer and Jerome.
I'd say that he isn't a particularly well-respected suspect, but the reason why he's in the discussion is because I think most of us trust Mike Brodelli and Milan, who follows him also on Tappa. These are smart guys, and they're honest people, and they've put forth a lot of evidence. I don't find it compelling at all. But I've learned a lot from the research into Shel Cavalli.
Same answer as you both.
Yeah. He actually infuriates a lot of people online, I found.
Yes, the dark. The press won't be able to print, and he wants the publicity. Yeah.
This is one year from Adam. I have a theory that the buttons are part of his kill count.
That the buttons are part of his kill count.
Yeah, that's interesting.
You can go ahead, Jerome.
Got a bit of a lag. We're doing our best.
Button.
It's your show, Jerome.
The
Why don't
button
you
was
read
drawn
it
as a
out?
piece.
Yeah, the button thing was interesting. That actually tracks nicely with KQ. Some of the stuff Holly Toski found out about him having buttons of the horse Silky Sullivan. So I never really knew, where the button thing was going with Zodiac. Like, obviously, I get it was a San Francisco thing at the time. That's obviously why you referenced it. But it's interesting that some people are able to find some connection with that with the suspects.
I was mostly
you
the same. I
think-
thought it was just something popular at the time.
Yeah, because do you really think that the Zodiac was thinking that
he would get
not
people to wear
enough-
buttons?
yeah, but to fabric the buttons, an industry create the Zodiac buttons for a serial killer? No way.
Oh yeah, they're actually going to make Zodiac Killer buttons in a factory and distribute them
Yeah,
and sell
And
them
sell
in stores.
Yeah, no way.
No,
There is no
no.
way.
Yeah. So what exactly was his demand? Was he just asking people to make homemade ones themselves? Because
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I guess that's possible. It's not a complicated symbol. It's just I certainly don't have the time, effort, and energy to do something like that. I'd be like, nah. Again, I mean, I'm not an artistic person, but
maybe DIY buttons were more of a thing back then.
I don't think that the press was giving him enough attention that he thought that they would actually go to this effort to do it. I don't think he thought a lot about it. I think it was a joke.
Yeah, I think you're right.
One thing that's interesting about it is that it's another element of his writing that seems to at least emulate young person speak. I have my doubts that Zodiac was a counterculture person, but I think he was basically trying to present himself that way.
But if you look at somebody like Paul Brookbanks on Paulscape 72 on YouTube, and he shows that, okay, maybe not solid counterculture, but someone who has been recently exposed to university campuses, either a student, recent graduate, someone who would have been around a lot of that stuff, even if they're not part of the movement themselves. I can buy that.
Yeah, I don't see the student that Paul sees, but I think he was definitely enveloped in this kind of culture. I don't think that gets us very far, though, because I think even in the Bay Area, you'd be seeing a lot of this stuff. He's not necessarily specific to San Francisco or Berkeley or anything.
No. But
100%.
Indeed, if he was seeing a student around him, maybe he was a teacher. I don't know.
Like Kaczynski, the professor.
Yeah. But I have found a lot of similarities between Kaczynski and the Zodiac, and
absolutely.
I mean, Kaczynski is a way better suspect than Francis Gary Post, for example. But with Kaczynski, I don't know. He's so smart, and I have read his manifesto. I will tell you, I'm agree with him. I'm completely agree with him at the time that Kaczynski had wrote his manifesto. He was absolutely right about the society we are living in today. But that's not an excuse to kill people. I have never said that. But in his manifesto, I'm agree with him.
All right, guys. I just want to say that I actually have to get off the call now. I have to go leave. But Jerome, thank you once again for inviting me on, and to everybody in the chat. My name is Ned Dehan. I'm the host of Black Box Online Radio here on YouTube, Black Box Podcast on Spotify, and you can download the show there and check it out. Other than that, always nice to talk to you, Ross. Nice to talk to you, Druzer. And if Jerome wants to do this again next week, I'm always down for it. I'll try my best, knock on wood, enrich with possibility. But you guys have a nice day, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you, Ned.
Take care, Ned.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, Ned.
I'm not sure what time it was for him. I think it was nighttime for him, right? What did you say?
No.
We have the whole world
daytime.
on this. It's night for you, Jerome, right? We have the whole world on this call right now. We have like 4 continents.
No,
do you guys want to
time
pop
for him.
Right? Do you guys want to pop over to some Lake Berryessa?
Oh yeah, we can maybe answer.
Because it looks like it
a
kind of.
A slip on chat isn't much as a finger, but the same idea. Yeah. Eddie McNamara mentioned that Faraday Johnson was slow.
Druzer responded to that. I'm all good on that.
Crime, not Zodiac related. Yeah, I know. I was thinking at the beginning that it was drug related, but after
well, Eddie's a proponent of, he's an offshoot of the Haran theory. It's my understanding, right? So that's where Horan took it.
I like talking to Eddie. I hope he sort of reemerges in the Zodiac community. I don't agree with him, but we've had some good talks.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's always good to have good talks with people and exchanging our opinion about a subject. And like you were saying, in this world of the Zodiac world, Zodiac land, it's difficult because everybody wants to stick on his suspect or on their theory, and they don't want to debate. And I find that ridiculous because we don't have the same theory, and me, I have my theory, but I'm agree to be challenged completely, and I accept to be wrong, and there is no problem with that. But by my learning of the case, for me, my theory fits with, but I could be completely wrong, and I accept it. This is not the point. And the point is to talk each other with respect, and like we do. We are not agree about everything, but we accept all the idea of each other. So,
I like Jerome's theory a lot. Let me just say, and again, it could be going back to Don Cheney-isms, as I referenced earlier, but the whole dynamic between Don and Sandy is maybe even more strange than the one between Don and Alan. The fact that they go forward to the Southern California police because apparently Sandy has a connection over there. It just seems like a weird way to notify law enforcement that you think someone that you knew or from your past might be the Zodiac. I just don't see any reason why they couldn't just call Vallejo or,
Didn't he report it in his own hometown?
Yeah, I think Beeson is the best on this. I think it's Pomona or somewhere down there in SoCal. It might even be Los Angeles, somewhere in greater Los Angeles. But yes, I don't know. I mean, I guess you could, as Druzer was saying, it could just be a local thing. Hey, I live here, so whatever. I guess Sandy had some connection there, personal connection, which but seems weird.
I think the key to unlocking what the hell happened with Don Cheney is in the fact. I think it was from Cheney who said that the first person he told was Sandy, who was his boss at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
So if he was fudging the truth about what Alan had said to him at that point, then he's just said it to his boss.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't exactly go back on it. And it sounds like Sandy encouraged him to take it to the authorities, which is something that a grown man shouldn't need encouragement to do when
with
discovering
unsolved
when discovering
serial
that,
killer
that a
culture.
serial killer is known only to yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
So I
agree.
think
I
when
agree too.
Cheney came forward, he was sort of locked into a certain narrative, and it sort of grew from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he ends up sprinkling quite a bit of dressing on that narrative later on. Adam asked who your POI is, Jerome.
What is a POI?
Person of interest.
Person of interest. Cheney and Panzarella and Ron Allen, but not directly involved. Involved in a way that I think Cheney and Panzarella, because they know each other, was taking a lot of information by Ron about Lee to influence him and to fit with the narrative about what they have to say about Lee. I think Ron Allen has helped, but I think he was not aware that Cheney and Panzarella was involved in a crime, and I don't point the finger on him at all, but he was indirectly, I think Ron was indirectly involved in that, but just giving information. And I think that my two guys, Don Cheney and Sandy Panzarella, and I have already explained why. I've made 2 videos on this channel to explain why I think it was them, and it took me 2 hours to explain every details, but I think it's him. We are on the same Discord server, Drew, and somebody sent me the birthday certificate of Sandy Panzarella.
Mm-hmm.
He is born on December 20, 1928.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very interesting. The Lake Herman Road.
Exactly 14 years, and he said apparently that he needs to kill because it's his birthday. So no, I know it's not a proof, and but with that plus plus, after you start to think about somebody, and
no,
that's the way it goes. There's so many letters and attacks that if you add them up, there are numerous dates that could possibly be significant to the killer, and
or both,
and then so the more you look into a suspect or a person of interest, you find dates matching. A Jack the Ripper letter, or someone's mother was born on a certain day.
Yeah, that's the big Kel Cavalier thing. To return back to that question from the chat
it's
earlier.
really the solid divide between me and researchers like Drew Beeson or Mike Rodelli. I'm not sure how many other suspects have all of these significant dates that the killer is giving clues to. But that's something I've never been able to get behind. It's a bit of a barrier for me in these discussions.
I mean, to go along with the gray smithing that carries into the Fincher script, that fact is prominently, relied upon in the movie about the phone call to Melvin Belli's, was it his home office or wherever his assistant took the call and saying, I have to kill because it's my birthday. And Jake Gyllenhaal, a la Graysmith, running back to Toschi at his house or whatever and saying, look, I found his ID. It's Arthur Leigh Allen. And apparently
it's Arthur Leigh Allen. Yeah.
Apparently Toschi knew that wasn't the case. So why they would, as we were all saying about the book and the movie narrative, why they would still let that into the movie script after all that, when David Toschi came to set and he met Mark Ruffalo, who was playing him in the film. like I'm a bit surprised that Fincher was so meticulous about detail that he didn't just have Toschi read the script and be like, hey, there's certain things in here that, you know, it's a movie, but it's also like a 3-hour long movie. You don't need every one of these, you know, like you could cut some of this nonsense, you know?
No, it's a movie, and Fincher's intention wasn't to create a flawless document of the crimes. He throws a piece of the Stein's shirt in the Halloween card because it would be creepy. He makes Graysmith and Toschi and Avery best friends because it's more engaging. That's his commitment.
Yeah, it's more of a narrative, but just something like that, which is a fact that we all know Toschi blatantly do. I'm like, that can go, you know, and it just confuses people because they watch the movie and they come to us and they're like, Ross, do you do a series on Zodiac? Oh, I have it figured out because the movie told me it was Arthur Lee Allen. And I was like, I used to be like that too the first time I watched that movie until I read like any case file. Anyway, boys, seems that the chat has stagnated. Let's get over to Lake Berryessa because just I wanted
there we go.
I'll say this final thing on coincidences is that Arthur Lee Allen and Paul Stein had the same birthday.
Yeah.
You know, even in the small bits we know, there's just
that's
a lot of weird stuff.
Aren't they both born in Honolulu? Like both of their, I thought dads were stationed there. So
I don't know about any of that.
I believe that might be, or at the very least, both of their dads were stationed there as officers, but I believe they both had the same birthplace. So again, like Druzer said, if you start looking for the synchronicity, you'll find it. The problem is you'll find it everywhere to the point that it becomes obnoxious, and it also doesn't actually teach you anything. It doesn't lead you to a suspect. It's just a bunch of weird freak coincidences. You know,
I just don't think that the killer gave any clues about his identity.
No,
I mean,
really, certainly not the hell would he? I mean, unless unconscionably he had like some sort of Freudian slip that gave us something, and we wouldn't even be able to know what that is with all the metaphors and poetry and nonsense. I mean, that's a pretty good segue into Berryessa, where he builds this homemade Coco, the Lord High Executioner mask that he wears when he stabs Brian and Cecilia. As we all know, when they go down there, of course, we have our second phone call to Officer Slate when he brags to the Napa Sheriff's Department. But as we know, Brian and Cecilia were planning on going to San Francisco, and they go to a yard sale or whatever. They ultimately decide to go to Lake Berryessa last minute, much like a lot of the other victims travel, and that's where we get. That's where we discount a lot of the Zodiac is following all these people and following them around, kind of like what we just said with Blue Rock Springs, where Michaud says he followed us from the burger place, he followed us around all night. First of all, I just don't think that makes a lot of sense for Zodiac to do that, because right off the rip, now you just gave like all these random witnesses at burger places or wherever chances to see your car, chances to see your plate. So that's one main reason why that really doesn't work good. But yeah, just whatever you guys think about. I mean, let's face it, Berryessa is the most like remote of all the locations. Just because there's, it's not immediately off of a road. And so, that one's kind of stands apart,
Well, it was kind of remote, but it was also popular.
Yeah.
And Zodiac knew that he was, I suppose, I shouldn't say that. I assume that Zodiac knew that he was going to write a message on whoever's victim's car that day.
Yeah. I would agree with that. And like Druzer said, it's like a popular kind of, whatever you call it, I guess, vacation or whatever, recreational location, but also perhaps big enough that a lake that big, you're likely to find one of these secluded peninsulas or, islands where you can get the job done. So it kind of provides both. You have people, but also enough space to give you the breathing room, What's your take on the executioner hood, Jerome, and just the fact that this vastly differs from any of the other three crimes as far as cross logo on the
Oh.
bib and whatnot.
Wow, I have a lot to say on Lake Berryessa. About the hood and the costume. Uh, it was maybe uh, s- say not no. I don't remember the word in English. Oh, there's an. Uh, I think maybe it means something for him. Maybe it was just a disguise. I don't know. But the thing is that first there is a long way between the car and the place where uh, Cecilia and Brian was attacked.
Mhm.
So we can exclude directly Arthur Lee Hallen from this crime because, like, he has a problem to walk, and at the time, I think we can exclude him from that. But it's just my opinion. But yeah, for the first two crime, if it's him or them, uh, he arrive, he shoot, he leaves. Now on Lake Berryessa, 3 months after the last attack on July 4th,
Mhm.
uh, it looked like he take his time. He want to take his time. It looked like it for me. It looks like because for the first time, as we know, he's talking with the victim.
Mhm.
So there is an interaction, and he will not shoot them. He will use a knife.
Despite having the gun on him still.
Yeah. He has a gun on him,
So
and
he chooses not
he,
to.
yeah, and he has a pre-cut rope
Mhm.
and pre-cut rope, and but he will stab them. So for me, it's something more personal than shoot somebody with a gun that wounded somebody with a knife.
Yep.
So for me, I see two possibilities. It was the Zodiac, okay, acting like he was acting for reason we don't really know because
Mhm.
that's read that this is the only time he's wearing this costume.
Yep.
Or who know Cecilia or Brian has something against Cecilia or Brian, want to commit a murderer and put everything on the Zodiac and say, "Oh, it was the Zodiac." So like this is not. I mean, for the police, is not involved. Is not the same guy who was involved with that. So maybe it was a copycat, but a strong copycat because you need to have a costume and not just a costume with the cross made in 10 seconds. No, it was well made, really well made. So that means that this guy had take the time to do that. And yeah, so it was maybe to put this crime on the Zodiac and to why he was wearing a mask to don't be recognized by Cecilia O'Brien. Oh, yeah. For that, I think it's what I think about that. And but I think that Lake Berryessa was so personal, more personal than the two first attack. And after the last attack, Paul Stein nothing personal. But in this case, I see somebody who is nervous because, according to Brian Hartnell, his hand was shaking.
Mhm.
If we believe him, his hand was shaking. Uh, it could mean that he was nervous, but nervous for what reason? I
Because
have
he
no
never
idea.
got that close
Yeah,
without
yeah,
standing far back with a gun, as you
yeah,
said before.
yeah, yeah.
It's a totally different thing walking up to them, making out the car, and then flashlighting them and shooting real quick and just walking away. You know, like you said,
And
he actually has to bind them now and then get down that on top of them to
yeah, there
so
is more stress. So there is more stress. So it could be the Zodiac doing all of that.
Brian's
And
also 6'7", so I'm sure
yeah,
that played into some of the nerves.
oh yeah, yeah, he was really tall. So
Hmm.
when the Zodiac face him and see that he's 6'7", whoa.
He's expecting a smaller guy than him, probably not a
Oh
bigger
yeah,
guy.
yeah,
So
yeah, certainly. Yeah, yeah, certainly. And it was maybe not his first idea of the attack. Maybe it changed when
exactly.
he have so uh, how tall Brian was. But yeah, but I see something really personal in this attack. I don't know if you guys think the same, but I think it's different from the two first attack. But maybe not. Maybe it's not personal at all, and he was stressed because for the first time he had to stab by himself the
Mhm.
victim and not just shoot them to 1 meter away. So yeah, this is possible that acting by himself with a knife were more stressful than shooting somebody with a gun. Yeah,
Yeah.
I did agree. And for the costume, I have no idea because it's no, I have idea, but I mean it's strange if you want to kill two people and you know that there's two people who will be dead. What is the purpose to hide your face behind a
Yep.
hood and a hood really well made? I I don't know. Maybe because Michael on the first attack, so he was maybe not sure.
Mhm.
But if it's the case, if not sure, then uh, the two victims will be dead. If I was him, I will be more on Brian and continue to stabbing him and maybe cutting his throat and to Cecilia too. It's more direct than stab them like this, like the police report indicate where and how they were stabbed. If you don't want to have anyone to uh, explain what did happen that night, you cut them the throat and it's over. And you leave and you put this message on the car door and you leave and you
Mhm.
take credit. But no, he has never take credit in the letter. He talk about um, yes, it's not really taking credit, but he
Makes the
talks
phone call,
about
and then
yeah, he makes
yeah.
the phone call. That's right. But that's that's maybe something he had learned about the previous attack. If it's not the Zodiac, and if it's the Zodiac, it's normal that he called the police. But I wonder why he don't call the police after Paul's time.
Well, that
That's a
was
question too that
yeah.
I am always wondering why he doesn't call the police because he had always
Set the piece of the
called the
shirt.
police after. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Send the piece of
yeah, yeah.
shirt, so he doesn't need to call for that one. I
No, I
think
know because he
yeah.
know that he will send letters with the But if it's somebody who likes to directly call the police to report his murder because he's afraid of him, uh, why he doesn't do that on Paul Stein? I mean, I know he will write letter with Paul Stein piece of shirt inside the letter. I know, but why he doesn't act like the two previously attacked? Because in the first attack, he had never called anyone, as we know.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my point on that.
There's a lot in there, Jerome.
Yeah.
Skipping past the copycat discussion, which we can have, but that's a whole other thing. He may, in terms of not making the call in San Francisco and how different it was from the Lake Berryessa and how different that was from the previous crimes. I'd say that the point of the San Francisco murder was to do something very different. So different that the pattern could not be anticipated. Any kind of crime that he would do could possibly be him. I think that was in his mind. May have also been in his mind that a city as large as San Francisco may actually be able to trace the phone calls or record the phone calls or any other things that could put him in serious peril, which he was pretty sure they couldn't do from the small county communities that he hit previously.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I agree with those points.
But
yeah, Jerome, definitely.
Just a question. Do we know if in 1969 the police were recording the call?
Well, they did not have those capabilities in Vallejo.
But they can trace a call.
They did trace the call. Yes,
traced it to the.
But they need a lot of time to do that because
7 minutes.
7 minutes. And the Zodiac had never called 7 minutes. It was I'm the murderer of the two teenagers, and blah 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 blah. Good.
It's a short statement. Yeah, no, it was nowhere near.
It took less than 1 minute.
Prepared statement from the sounds of it.
Yeah, good point from Richard Grinnell. Only Zodiac would likely categorize the first two crimes under the banner of Vallejo on the car door, as he did in the letters, and that bespeaks because that one land is unincorporated, right, Druzer? So it essentially is like him generalizing, the locations.
Yeah, and he generalized the North Bay to describe Lake Berryessa.
Yeah, that's what I was coming to. I'm going to skip over the copycat as well because I don't think it is. I think that the hood crosshair logo costume getup is just too intricate for a copycat. I don't think they would know that. The Mikado references weren't as prevalent at that time. He hadn't sent the Exorcist letter yet, so I don't see how a copycat would already know the Mikado if it is a Coco, the High Executioner, which I do think that is part of it. But also, Jerome, he goes behind the tree and he doesn't put on the hood until after Cecilia sees him from far away. So it'd be one thing if he walks up with the hood on behind the tree and then she's like, hey, Brian, there's a dude with a black hood on walking up. You know what I mean? Now they already know they can start running or they could get in the water and swim away, as opposed to it's more non-threatening that he walks up without it because when he steps out from behind the tree, then he has it on. But by that time, he's already briskly walking up.
But it was maybe his plan because if he's, like you said, if he's wearing his hood from the beginning, people will be really scary to see somebody like this. But
it's going to alert him.
If he do that at the last time, no problem.
Well, it gives you the time to pop up on him close.
Yeah.
Voight poured cold water on the gout, Druzer. He said that Alan didn't have the gout in his feet till after 69.
That makes sense.
I was always leaning where Jerome was going, where I didn't really think Arthur was that type of walker to do that kind of walking in and out.
Even if he was, though, it would be more evidence to include Alan in my mind. If you take the sighting of the doctor's son seriously because that guy described a man who was walking poorly,
out of shape,
Yeah.
or looked out of place. So I was actually just coming to that. I'm glad Druzer brought that up. So we have two people cited same day. We have the lurker of the three girls, Jerome. Obviously, we have like the weird slick back hair lurker sketch, which apparently they describe him as nice looking and well dressed. He doesn't very look nice looking to me in that composite sketch, but composite sketches are what they are. He looks a little bit like a strange man to me. You have that story changing over time. I'm sure Druzer knows. Take that for what you want, but then you have Dr. Rayfield and his son seeing this other guy a bit further away, kind of turning his back to them, walking up a hill, and they don't really see his face. So it's always interesting to me that you do have two people that day. Unfortunately, the lurker smoked like a pile of cigarettes that were like left there and not collected. That's always unfortunate because maybe that could have led to something. Not to say that the lurker was the Zodiac or he was an accomplice. You know, in Jerome's theory, he has accomplices, so anything is possible. But yeah, so piggybacking off what we were saying last time, which is what Ned and I were saying of the Jack the Ripper, Ripper Street graffito, pretty much writing the thing on the wall. Zodiac writes on the door. This is after the Manson crimes. The Manson crimes are prominently featured with knife murders, writing pig and helter skelter and blood. Yeah. So again, crime scene graffiti. So you have, the Ripper influence, the Tate LaBianca murder influence. The hood here to me, people, we had a question about the Renaissance Fair, which I guess was around that time. I don't know the exact date. Druzer slightly before, maybe, what would you say? The night before. So apparently the night before was the small Renaissance Fair. The hood to me, beyond anything, and I have seen similar ones in like the kind of Church of Satan executioner rituals that I always bring up, but the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, the Texarkana Phantom, it seems more than anything, if the Coco the High Executioner is one of the influences, the Tate LaBianca murders, the Jack the Ripper murders, and tying it in with the Texarkana Phantom, because we know the Tex Phantom wore a hood. He basically wore a primitive bag hood over his head, obviously attacked male-female couples on a lover lane. So it seemed like, you kind of have the overtones of the Ripper, and then I kind of thought Lake Berryessa had the overtones of, because he could have wore anything. He could have wore a bandana over his face. You wouldn't have been able to see him, with some aviator sunglasses. But yet he has the entire custom executioner hood, which does seem to be in the vein of the executioner character from the Mikado. So, those are all, I get what people say. Like even Drew Beeson himself, who I consider one of the better people on the case, has said like it could be a copycat, but I kind of lean towards Druzer. Yeah, it could be, but as a copycat, I don't know that he's going to leave the note on the car door. And even still, I think, Sherwood, Morrow, whatever handwriting experts would say, that's Zodiac's handwriting. It's too damn close to what's in the correspondence. You know what I mean? So those are just reasons for me why I have Berryessa being the most Zodiac crime out of all of them. By gun, has it on him. By knife, uses it. By rope, has it on him. Has the hood on him. Doesn't necessarily do any fire that we know of. Has the phone call afterwards. So granted, Dennis Land comes down here and messes up our crime scene, so we have more issues, but then you have the lurker cited, then you have the other dude cited. It all bespeaks to me and tracks to be a Zodiac pattern. It doesn't directly take credit. He says North Bay area in the letter, but he does write the other note on the car door, so it's enough for me. I don't look at it as Zodiac didn't take credit for it. Now the interesting thing is, going to his cover story that Ned went deep dive on last time, the whole conversation that Jerome recounted, totally unnecessary amount of dialogue back and forth between the victims. But Brian and Cecilia were both not familiar with the Zodiac case, right, Druzer? Because neither of them was from Northern California. So that's an added layer of interest to me, is like they just simply didn't know what or who the Zodiac was. So when he pops on them wearing this crazy hood, and by the way, I'm an escaped prisoner. Well, he's got the gun on you, on him, pointed at you. You're going to kind of take him for his word, even though the story doesn't all the way make sense. But you're not going to question him, in the moment. So It is.
No, because it's a threat for you. So yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
Exactly.
But about Druzer, just before, because Ross was telling about was speaking about the hooded costume. I'm going to show you something I have posted on my own channel. It's Susan Atkins playing in a movie of Anton LaVey
with the axe and so forth.
Yeah,
Doing
but
the
I would like to
skeleton
show
making
you
the hand gesture.
something about that. Watch.
Edited a little bit of it together.
Oh, you will not. We will not have the sound.
There's my
but
boy,
it's-
Anton LaVey.
Which is
That-
reviewed at a strip club in
That's the one I'm always looking for, Jerome. I'm always ranting and raving about this to everyone. I could not find the picture, dude. You got to send that to me. So, dude, I don't know what you think, Druzer, but I think that's way closer than a lot of the other stuff people post
and
as like
here,
the Australian SWAT garb and all that other stuff. Dude, he's got the damn near the bib. Come on, man. It's Church of Satan, Druzer.
I don't know what you think about
that,
that,
but I don't know what you can do with it.
No, I can't do anything with
no.
it, but I go around toting it as very close. And now I got Jerome in my corner, so that's two of us against the world, Jerome.
And we have here Susan Atkins. So it's. I mean, there is. I don't think there is any relation between the Zodiac family, the Manson family, and Zodiac, but it's a weird coincidence. Then we have Susan Atkins and this guy wearing a hood really looks like the Zodiac. So.
Yeah, that hood, without a doubt, the executioner hood. What's her connection to Church of Satan, Jerome? Was she initiated or what?
Yes, I think she was initiated before she knew Manson, and but Anton, not Anton LaVey, his daughter and his step son. I don't remember his name. The guy has no hair.
Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. But yeah, that's
yeah.
I like it.
And he was talking about Susan Atkins. We were, I mean, not really involved, but she was there at the party of Anton LaVey. And she was really active on the Search of Satan. So it could be means something, could be means nothing.
Let me ask Druzer. I don't know if I've ever asked him before. What do you feel about the Church of Satan or Zodiac as a member to any other occult group? And I know that's an extremely general question with
about the Search of Satan and what I know about the Search of Satan. The Zodiac don't have the same philosophy of the Search of Satan. Not at all.
Do you think that's possible, Druzer, or just?
I don't think he had any such affiliations. If he did, I'm not sure I would choose Church of Satan above other fringe cult groups. I've certainly entertained the thought. At this point, it's just, how do you feel about it? I feel that Zodiac was a loner, but I certainly don't have any evidence to contradict the theory.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is
no.
We know where Zodiac's ego is, right? It's astronomical, pun intended.
Oh yeah.
If he even went to one of those meetings, I think his takeaway would be self-worship and be like, oh well, I'm not going to look up to Anton LaVey, and it's just another kind of establishment, any other kind of established religion, but this slaves in the afterlife and this kind of self-worship thing is much more appealing, and that's just kind of, and again, that's a gut instinct. Could be.
I think he'd certainly taken in a lot of these weird ideas from the counterculture.
Oh yeah. He has a lot of. He take a lot of reference of everything, comic books. We know that by his letter, then he he had a lot of reference in his letter about the Mikado, about some comic books, some the Exorcist letter. So yeah, I think the Zodiac in his letter don't know really what to say, so he takes some stuff in a book there and something in a book there, and compile everything to make a letter because you don't really have something to say.
See, that's what I was saying about Berryessa. You know, it's the reference from Tate LaBianca.
Yeah.
It's the reference from the Ripper. It's the reference from the Texarkana Phantom. It's three kind of crimes.
Yeah.
If you want to pull up these ones from the chat, Jerome, Druzer's last comment about the glasses, because I have a question about this right above Adam. Thought the clip-ons were attached to hood, but Cecilia said he had on eyeglasses before he donned the hood. So I mean, I always wondered this. I've never really asked any of the boys this. Is this a double glasses scenario where he has like the aviator clip-ons on the outside of the hood, but then he's still wearing his own glasses underneath it?
I was thinking that too. There's no way that we can know. I think that's possible. He's wearing regular eyeglasses, but additionally he has clip-ons
with sunglasses on the outside.
The hood.
Yeah.
I think the glasses are key to keep the hood from swiveling. You know, it's got to be moving with his head, or else he's in trouble.
Yep.
But you could do it either way.
Yeah. That's a good. I haven't really heard people go much into that. And then the one above that, Grinnell, because this is up your alley, Jerome. Zodiac mentioned Susan Atkins on May 2nd, 1978, when he calls her what, a rat or something like that. I thought he calls her like some kind of
the Judas of the Manson family.
Yes, that's what it is. Interesting language there from the biblical reference. But yeah, I don't know. Anything? I'm probably going to jet in a few minutes, boys. But did we have anything on anything else on Berryessa that we missed? Thought we covered it pretty good.
The crime scene was messed up, completely messed up by
the blanket.
By the I don't remember his name again. Dennis Land. Yeah, so for me it seems weird that this kind of guy who knows his job will mess up completely a crime scene.
Yeah, I don't know.
Never understand why he has done that, because
I don't know how much experience he had with murder. I think
it wasn't murder at the time, right?
Well,
clearly it was going in the direction of murder. I think
there was
attempted murder,
bloody, horrific scene. And they're both struggling for life. I think maybe, I don't know why I did it. I'm not going to make an excuse for that. That was insane.
It's confusing.
Maybe he thought it was going to rain.
Yeah, it's confusing.
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's confusing. I mean, it's almost as confusing as Zodiac's story. And then it's funny that Brian's like, "Hey, what prison was that?" You know, supposedly gets him to repeat it. You know what I mean? It's just like the whole. I wish we could see what the Paul Stein conversation was, if there was one, because I would like to see if that was more grounded of a normal conversation as opposed to what Berryessa was, where he just walks up real quick, don't move, I'm an escaped convict, I've killed before, I killed 2 guards, that's establishing I've killed before and I'll kill you if I need to. But then it's I just want your car. But Brian gives him the keys, but does he even pick them up? I don't even think he touched it.
No.
Right? So it's right off the bat, he didn't even make any effort to take your keys, or in your head as a victim, you're thinking, oh, after he ties me up, then he's going to take my keys. But obviously you're in a moment of panic. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah, he only needs them to listen to his story for a few moments
until they're secured.
Once he's close, it really doesn't matter whether they believe him or not.
Yeah, and if they fight back, at that point, Brian's asked him if the gun's loaded. He showed him that it is. So if the struggles,
I think if he had to use it, he would have. But it was his plan not to.
Yeah,
seem like you could
But
make
in the
smoother
same
escape.
times, he had never referenced himself as the Zodiac.
Right. But here's the thing, Jerome. Like
With
I
a
was just
copycat?
saying.
Yeah, it's sweet. No,
But
but
here's
it's
the
sweet
problem,
because
Jerome,
he's
though.
so proud to.
Brian and Cecilia didn't know what the Zodiac was. So even if he said, I'm the Zodiac Killer, that wouldn't have been relevant until Brian's getting interviewed in the hospital by the police. And they're like, oh, dude, this is part of a canonical, a more of a crime spree type thing. So because that wouldn't have meant anything to Brian in the moment, So
I know, but this is something that we know. But how can he knows that Brian and Cecilia doesn't know anything about the Zodiac?
I think he was hoping that they would.
Yeah, they would recognize it, or I guess recognize the logo.
Yeah, he's still not expecting them to sprint past him to safety.
Yeah,
he's got the gun for insurance.
Yeah. Yep. And then, I mean, he doesn't say he's the Zodiac,
no,
Jerome, but like me and Druzer were saying, though, he dates the other by, he commemorates Berryessa by knife. He commemorates Lake Herman and Blue Rock by gun. So, the only place we would have those references, not knowing where Zodiac got them, is the Slaves in Paradise, that has everything, written.
At the end of the day, there's practical reasons why he wanted to cover his face. You ask yourself, is he a guy who's going to put on a ski mask, or does he think of himself a little more important than that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Or just a regular sack hood that the Texarkana Phantom wore, which is basically a potato bag with 2 holes in it. He dresses it up a little bit more with a custom, villain costume.
Yeah, he's escaping by one road. If he's going to get in a shootout with the cops, he wants evidence of who he is.
Yeah,
he could wear it the whole time on the way out in a blaze of glory.
Maybe he has something on his face which really recognizable by people. I mean, an issue on his face, a scar.
Yeah, over his forehead.
Oh God! Don't get Francis post us right now. If GFP us, no. Difficulties. Everybody knows about the scars on the forehead. That was the big. Broke the case.
I think I got my scars when I was about 40. Yeah, they just came to me.
Yeah,
you are the Zodiac.
Yeah.
I know.
I've been accused.
He is Canadian. That's what all the Anglophile references were. I do it.
Zodiac is a Canadian. Well. Yeah. So
yeah, we definitely got to get you and Rich and Adam over on my show. I like Adam's point here. Who were the people in the boat? It's a little further down, Jerome. Who were the people in the boat that didn't come to help? That was curious to me. Any chance Z watched from the water for a while? Because there were those victims that witnesses rather, that Brian and Cecilia called out to. Ultimately, the dude with his son goes back to get the Rangers, but that was a thing as well. Richards, you can go one more down, Jerome. Ronald, Fang, and son, you wouldn't go to help in those circumstances. I mean, Richard
absolutely
essentially has a good point here. Someone like me would, because I'd do something about it, but in 69, I don't know.
Well, he did do something about it. If it wasn't for Fong, they would have died.
Yeah. No, I mean actually go to the. I don't mean turn around and get the Rangers. I mean go to the site itself where the victims are bleeding out.
I think I would too. A little kid may change that time.
No, 100%. I mean, my point being, I'm a gun owner, so I'd be kind of ready for it to go either way. You know what I mean? But
I just wish that he'd gone to the headquarters instead of the resort, because he went a lot farther than he had to. And time was of the essence.
Yeah, I think that could have made an impact with Cecilia. Now, when law enforcement arrives, they are able to get some information out of her as far as height and things of that nature. I don't know how useful it is. Here's something we got brought up. Druzer and Adam, Rich, whoever wants to weigh in the chat. The impressions of Zodiac's wing walkers. We haven't mentioned his wing walker footwear yet. What is this? I know you're a facts guy, Druzer. What does this give you on Zodiac's weight? Because this is
Nothing.
probably one of. So not heavier.
It's a suggestion that he was heavier than observed at the other scenes.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's not exactly scientific to step in the sand and see how far
measure.
down you go.
Sure.
Like
measure foot impressions.
I don't think you're gonna determine a guy's weight between 40 pounds doing that kind of test. So I would take it with a grain. Yeah, it depends on the ground, as Richard just said in the chat.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm thinking of like the soft sand kind of beach, beachy lake sand down there is what I have in my mind. I mean, another problem is that Richard, you probably deconstructed this endlessly. You as well, Druzer, is 10.5 like wing walkers, but then people say like 200 to like 225, like up to 6 feet. Like a 6 foot to 6 foot plus dude does not have 10.5. Dude, I'm not even 6 feet. I have an 11.5 foot in most shoes. Just for example, not including my cheating here with the extra inches, So if you get me down to what my regular height is, now I know it's not exactly reflective, but I'm just saying in my mind, 6 foot to 6'2", 225 to 200 pound guy. It doesn't. I think 10.5 is probably too small for someone that size, And I know Zodiac's like 5'8" to 5'10" generally is what we think, but
I wear size 10 and I'm 6'1", 6'2".
Okay, so it's not really exactly reflective. But Donald Lee Cheney, he's around 6. I don't think he has 10.5 size shoes.
6 feet tall,
I assume it's bigger, but.
I'm
making assumptions.
It's too bad that Cheney is so suspicious to everyone, but there's literally no information that can be taken about him. We don't know anything.
No, not a lot. No.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
No.
It's just.
Some
I'm more going on like the build. Stocky is fine, but I'm just once people get up to 225, 250, over 6 foot, I don't know. And again,
he'd be described as fat, and he was not.
Right. I've been in the military. Lots of non-military people can buy our shoes from outlets. You could be military, but we've gone over that, Adam. I like it. Okay, Rich is 6 foot with a size 11, so he's 6'1" with a size 11. So Rich is like right in there. So it's like I always wonder about that, just to, I can't hear the name. Cheney, first name Donald Lee. Cheney. Donald
Lee. But not Lee like Lee Allen. Lee Allen was
spelled differently. Both of their middle names are Lee.
Yeah. Donald Lee Cheney was Lee. Yeah, like this.
Yeah. Good
and
old.
He lives 6 or 7 hours away. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. Druzer knows I'm not hung up on the distance argument as some other people. I mean, that's because in the Jack the Ripper thing, I mean, the big thing is a lot of people don't think it's a local, a Whitechapel guy. Now it's still downtown London, so he could literally be the next neighborhood over. But I'm just not always like the Texarkana Phantom. It should have been relatively easy to find that guy. It wasn't a huge town, most likely was some guy that lived in that town. Yet that dude disappears into thin air, you know what I mean? And he was taking way more risk than Zodiac. Like he's breaking into people's house, going around doing crazy, out of control stuff.
I'd say there's no reason why they should have caught any of those guys. If you are targeting strangers,
randoms,
and it's the 60s or earlier, If you have no connection to the victims or the scenes of the crime. You got
there's no social layers to connect you to it. The Tex Phantom's the 40s, but absolutely. I mean, I tend to agree with Druzer on that.
Yeah, me too.
Did we miss anything, Adam or Rich? I'm probably gonna tap out in a few minutes, but definitely go check out my latest episode with Druzer. Definitely got to get Rich and Adam back on. Get you on at some point, Jerome. Maybe deconstruct your theory, should you care to. The series will be rolling on, guys.
I think next week we are going to talk about Cherry Joe Bates about um, oh, I don't remember who we have said.
Dominguez Edwards was one of them. You want to do it?
Yeah, Richard.
Which is great. I'll get to beat Druzer to death with my non-canonicals again, which is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
Can you post Richard's comment here? It's a good one.
Yeah. There's good topics too. Brian said age 20 to 30.
Yeah.
But Brian said the Zodiac's voice was much older and deeper than the KGO TV caller. Eric Wheel was 29. So that is a blatant contradiction. Yeah, that's... I brought this up to you, Jerome, with Morph Suspect McDuff.
Yeah.
I was always stuck on like 30 to 40 because of the Presidio sketch, and that's what we're always told. But then Brian, I can't remember what Nancy and Slate said, Drew, but I thought several of them said like younger sounding, which...
I don't know, but Richard's comment here really just makes the point of you cannot be in any way certain about how old someone is by their voice.
Yeah.
Maybe someone in their 70s versus someone in their 30s or something like that. But
well, Adam, this comes up a bit more in my non-canonicals. I mean, the only person that he moves, so to speak, is Stein. I mean, if you read Robert Graysmith, Zodiac, he's going to tell you that Arthur Lee Allen beat up 4 and 5 Marines at a time, and he also did the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders, which he was throwing over fences and canyons into ravines. So he makes quite a strength argument in that book. That's the only place I've ever encountered it, Druzer. You can correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone else ever brings this up other than Graysmith.
I don't think there's any indication of Zodiac's strength.
Yeah. That's and again, you're going to add a lot of layers on there if you go the Graysmithing route. I'm not saying it's all bad or it's all untrue. No. It's just a lot, and there's no evidence to show us something like the Santa Rosa hitchhiker.
If you want to make a theory in the Zodiac case, you have to make assumptions, and that's what Graysmith did. That's what
Drew Beeson
is doing. That's what you're doing, Jerome.
It's a circumstantial case. It's we don't have strong evidence on the Zodiac, so it's more.
We do our best.
Absolutely.
You can either say I have no idea who Zodiac is, which should be everyone's preface, or you can say if this is true, then that might be true, and if that's true, then this is true, and maybe this is the guy.
Yeah, I don't really think it's any of the mainstream suspects unless there's a major component missing, which is like Drew Beeson, and a la Jerome's theory as well. Jerome's is kind of a supplemental to Drew's, adding in Panzarella. One thing is the dragon card, like Drew's theory is that it's a metaphor for Don and Sandy, Santo. And then there's that, I'm sure you've seen Brian in the hospital, Druzer. There's that other card that's like the same kind of artwork as the dragon.
It is also a Jolly Roger card, but it is not the dragon card.
Yeah, so it's like similar.
It's the same brand.
Series, same brand, same artwork style, but not the exact same card.
Yeah, so the question is, how long did Zodiac spend in these greeting card department stores looking for just the right one?
Yep. What's the date on this? This is after Lake Berryessa, right?
April 28, 1970.
Yeah.
So this was the card he sent in response to them not publishing his bomb plans.
So is it possible, Druzer, that Zodiac watches the news coverage of Brian, sees that card in the background, and sends this dragon card as a satirical joke, as a response to the fact that it was on Brian's wall? Or I think that was the hospital room.
I think that's a little ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what people lean into. Yeah.
I have a lot of opinions. I try not to express them if I can't sort of prove them.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
But yeah, I don't think he spent that long choosing greeting cards.
Yeah. I've got a theory, but it's not really a theory because my first language is not English, it's French. So I'm learning English all the time. And I see that, a dragon and a donkey. And when I write differently, but drag on Donsky.
Nice.
I like it. I like it. Sometimes we
Yeah.
need a
And
non-English guy to break it down.
yeah,
Well, this is all a creative writing exercise if you're actually
Yeah.
trying to pin it on someone.
100%. 100%. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Like the one online on Classmates happens to be owned by another Mike, but he seems to be threatened for some of his premarital acts. I mean, yeah, that's. I
What are
mean,
we
that's
talking
not.
about here? I found the yearbook Mike is in. Which Mike is that? Michael Majot?
Yeah, it's got to be.
yeah, I think it's Mike Majo. Yeah. But if I have something to say to you in the chat, if you want to do your own investigation, don't start with someone in your head. Start to read everything you
100%.
can with facts, and after you can develop your theory about that. But don't start with an idea that somebody and tell you, or somebody you think is the Zodiac, because it will not work, not at
Yeah.
all. You
Fitting a
need
square
to
peg in a
fit,
round hole, you know.
yeah, you need to fit to fit the facts on your suspect, and not the reverse, not fit the suspect to the facts. It's
Yeah.
so if you do your own research by yourself, try to do that. Try to focus on the facts and what we know, what we don't know, and made your opinion on that. If I have, uh, um, if you have, oh, um,
That's great advice.
yeah, a great an advice to you. Thank you, Drew. Thank you.
No, that's a Jerome's
I think
100% right.
I think Drew Beeson would agree with that too. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
Oh yeah,
he
yeah.
he started with the documentary. He saw a very suspicious character, and he was hooked. He's still hooked.
Yeah. I mean, he has certainly found some cool stuff. If he makes it, maybe next time we can ask him about the Avery and Cheney connection, which is interesting. That was a response to the blast being present in the headlines regarding Park Police Station. I think I read something about that recently. Druzer, did I ever ask you about the Tarbox story when you were on my show? I can't remember if we discussed that or not.
I'm not sure.
Or do you want to give us your take on it now?
It probably wasn't Zodiac. It may not have been anyone at all. I guess that would be the short answer.
I think I'm the only one in Zodiac that I've spoken to that loves the Tarbox story, because I'm just like, I'm stuck on it.
I love
agree
it.
with
I
you,
just don't
but-
think it has any basis in reality.
Yeah,
No.
I mean,
Like,
it
it's a
sounds
great
like
idea.
plausible, like what you said. It sounds plausible, like someone came in and made that confession. I don't know
Right.
that person was the Zodiac. Obviously, Tarbox was trying to exonerate Alan. I like the Merchant Marine theory a lot. It's pretty close to what my own theory is, so that's why I attach
It
on
works
to
pretty
Tarbox.
good. Was that alleged confession after they removed the death penalty in California?
I should look
You know?
that up.
It was in 71
That's when they
or
removed
70,
it. Or
Yeah.
But when was
70 or 71.
when was Tarbox visited by this mysterious character, though?
yeah, we'd have to. I know there's some Tarbox story, Zodiac Killer, and the question is, even if we find the article, is it even gonna? In 2009, Tarbox claimed that one night in the early 70s, a man
Right.
who said he was a merchant marine walked in his office, paid him $50, and confessed to being the Zodiac Killer. Like, Tarbox never saw him again. Evidence against Tarbox. Tarbox's law license was suspended in 1975 for 5 years. This is the Atlantic. So if it happened after 75, it doesn't sound like Tarbox would have really had much of a law office for this said individual to visit.
Right, but his see, this is something that Tarbox would know about. He would be very aware of this date. That would be a very big deal in his field. For him to be vague on that crucial element, early 70s,
Yeah.
that's obfuscation.
Yeah. Yeah, especially for someone so detailed. But me, I'm a big Tarbox guy. You can go look at all my old shows and see me ranting and raving about how epic of a story it is. The walking in and paying $50, I don't know. I mean, we'd also have to check the conversion of what 50 was worth in the early 70s, because like if you're a Zodiac, like nowadays, like, hey, listen, man, I'm gonna pay you this $50 for for the whatever it is, the client attorney privilege. And even still, it doesn't hold up, because if someone tells you that they committed murder, or then the client attorney privilege doesn't apply if someone admits to direct crimes. So
Zodiac did this, and he was a merchant marine. Couldn't he just put like his finger over the name on his license and say, "Look, I am a merchant marine. You can see that here. I'm not going to give you my name because we don't know each other, and I'm a serial killer." I would
reasonable.
maybe believe it a little more.
Yeah. It's a great point.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Good stuff, gentlemen. I think that'll do it for me today. I got to move on to some other things, but Ross PXF, hit me up, youtube.com/PlanetXFilm. Got a new episode out, the Cobain Conspiracy Files Volume 1. Gonna have some new shorts. Gonna have some new stuff coming up soon. Just been taking a little break, but I'll be back in full action. Hopefully get Andrew and Adam on, get Rich back on when he's available. Definitely Jerome. Anybody else you guys want? I'm looking to do a debate too. I'd love to do a Zodiac debate. I don't want to bring up complete ignoramuses on my platform, but if someone can speak to the case reasonably, I'm open to it. I just don't want to prop up any cockamamie crack. What did Butterfield call it? The crackpot files, crackpot theories. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll get the new Cokes guy calling you probably.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I said he's already made. He made a response to something. I think it was to me in your episode, Druzer, and it was like me just saying that the tone changed to like Belli, to Exorcist, to like that is like a well established. That's not some revolutionary thing I said. Like you'll find that anywhere. And then he started with that, and then he just made like a 10-minute diatribe that had literally nothing to do with anything that I said. I was like, bro, like. This is not even you put my name in this title, and this doesn't even like respond to anything I said, bro. Like,
no, I admire Vincent's enthusiasm in putting airplane cement on his
he's doing some interesting stuff for sure. Yeah,
but he's rude, he's obnoxious, and he's crazy.
Yeah, his commentary is a little bit off, and then I don't know, he needs to watch his tone. Peace, Richard. Appreciate you, brother. Definitely get you back on soon. Love check out Richard's new articles. It's zodiacciphers.com. I downloaded Oranchak's white paper. I don't know if you guys have read it yet, but I want to read that too about them breaking the cipher. It's free. I'll send you the link, Jerome. So always love what those guys do. Again, I'm not the math guy. I'm not the cipher guy. Very dumb over here when it comes to math guys. Don't pretend to be it. Don't pretend to be it. But I will read their paper and see what they said.
It's always interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Great show, brothers.
All right, it's been fun.
See you around, gentlemen. Get you back soon, Druzer. Peace to Rich, peace to Adam, PXF, Jerome, French Wrecking Crew. Subscribe to Jerome's channel.
All right, take care, fellas.
Have a good one, brothers. Peace.
Take care, Ross. Wow, it was a great show again, isn't it? So for the next time, we will talk about Cherry Joe Bates, Domingo Edwards, and Ray Davis, or we will talk about we will make a deep dive in the I don't know if you ever here, and thank you for all the new subscriber. Thank you very much. I'm not looking to have 5,000 subscribers. It's not the point, but it's great. Now I have 800 subscribers, and 1 month ago I was at 200 subscribers. So I have 700 new subscribers. Wow, it's amazing. You are amazing. You are really amazing. So I know we will do a deep dive in the letter because it's interesting to see to try to understand the psychological aspect, excuse me, it's late, of the writer. And for the letter we think it's the Zodiac, and even the letter we don't think is the Zodiac, like this, we will continue what Ned had done the other day on his channel, reading the letter, but going deep dive in each letter. When he start to say it's like on the John Benet Ramsey case, the note, the Ramson note. Dear John, listen carefully. Nobody is listening. It's a letter. And for the Zodiac, it's the same. This is the Zodiac speaking. Nobody is speaking. It's a letter. So it was just an example to try to deep dive every single turn of phrase, or the to see how the guy was thinking at the time, try to see how the guy was thinking at the time, how was his brain about the date and the place he was living, and the thing he could know or didn't know at the time. So we will try to make a deep dive in the letter, and also for another episode talking about Cherry Joe Bates, Robert Domingo, and Linda Edwards, I would. Oh, Richard, thank you. It's a great honor. From you, it's a great honor. And about my panel, uh, yeah, I'm sorry. I was thinking that Drew were available tonight to join us, but it was not the case. But I excuse him. There is no problem. He's welcome when he wants. But please, if it's not already done, and I'm sure it's already done, but subscribe to Net's channel, Black Box Online Radio, BBOR, coming to you from West Virginia and all around the world. Subscribe to Ross Geraci channel, Planet X Filmworks. For I don't know if he has him do and what he posts and what he's doing. It's incredible because Druzer and no specific um, suspect, so he's really open to all the debate, like Ross and Ned and Drew Beeson too. Does the same thing. They are all open to listen other theory, and it's sad then it happened just here, because it will be great to see more this kind of show. I don't know what you think about that, but for me it's always great to see a panel of different people with different theory or perspective, and they debate in the calm and quietly and gently. They are not agree, but they debate. And even if they are not agree, there is no problem with that. We could be wrong. Nobody has the answer for now. So for now, nobody is right, and certainly not this guy on TikTok. But I want to talk about him because it's making him some publicity. So, but he was not the guy is not respectful with his family, with the victim, with anyone, with himself. He has no respect for himself. So he has no respect for the victim. He has no respect for his own family. I don't know what to do with this kind of people, but in the Zodiac world, every 4 months we have a new Zodiac suspect. But show now, and I hope to see you next week. Maybe not on Monday, maybe another day. We will see what's good for everyone because we need to be all on the same line, and like we live all over the place. Me, I live in Belgium. Ross lives in California. Ned lives in Philippines. Uh, Druzer lives in Canada. So we have different time zones. So we need to shuttle a show. It's not really easy. It's not always easy, but we have already done 2 shows about the Zodiac. I hope you have enjoyed it. And yeah, that's what I that's what I was saying. So okay, see you next week. And if not already done,